Hey guys, welcome back to All History. Tonight, we're traveling far, far back in time, so far that your calendar app would probably explode trying to load the date. You're not in the modern world anymore. No phones, no Wi-Fi, You've just woken up in ancient Egypt, and let me tell you, this is not going to be easy. The first thing that hits you isn't the view, it's the heat. It's like someone opened an oven and decided to live inside it. The sun isn't just shining, it's judging you. You blink your sleepy eyes open, and there it is, the Nile River, shimmering like a silver snake in the distance. Palm trees sway lazily, and the air smells faintly of mud, sweat, and whatever the neighbors had for breakfast. Congratulations! You're in one of the oldest, most advanced civilizations in human history, and you're already sweating through your linen. You're lying on a mat made from woven reeds. Your pillow is a carved wooden headrest, and your first thought is probably, how do people actually sleep on this thing without snapping their necks? But somehow, Egyptians loved these things. It kept their heads cool, they said. You try to shift, but sand sneaks into your clothes, your ears, your hair, everywhere. There's no escape from it. Sand is now part of your personality. You stretch, and your back cracks in protest. The house around you is tiny, made of sun-baked mud bricks. There's no glass in the windows, just open holes for air. The floor's dusty, and the walls are bare except for a few faded paintings of gods Ra, Isis, maybe Osiris watching you like nosy landlords. The roof is flat, sometimes used for sleeping under the stars when nights aren't too cold or full of bugs. Your stomach growls. You're starving, but don't expect pancakes and coffee. Breakfast in ancient Egypt is a simple affair. Coarse barley bread, maybe some onions, and a sip of beer. Yes, beer. Everyone drinks it, even kids, but don't get too excited. It's not modern beer. It's thick, warm, and kind of chunky, more like liquid bread. You take a gulp and immediately regret it. Congratulations, you're hydrated. Sort of. Outside, the street is coming to life. Chickens cluck, donkeys bray, and kids run barefoot through the dust. The air buzzes with flies. Somewhere, a neighbor is grinding grain, and you can hear the dull thud of stone against stone. The rhythmic sound fills the village, the heartbeat of daily life. The Nile provides everything: water, fish, crop sand. Everyone depends on it. But that also means every day starts early and ends exhausted. You step outside, shielding your eyes from the blinding sunlight. People are already working: men hauling baskets of mud for construction, women kneading dough, children fetching water. Life here runs on routine and hard work. You're a foreigner in a land that's already thousands of years old, where every gesture, every word, even how you breathe, seems to have a rule. The Egyptians love order. They even have a goddess for it, Mat, the embodiment of balance and truth. Step out of line, and you're not just being rude. You're upsetting the cosmic harmony. You pass a temple where priests chant in the distance. The sound is haunting, beautiful, and a little eerie. Incense smoke curls into the air, carrying the scent of myrrh and burnt offerings. Inside, sacred cats roam freely. They're not just pets, they're divine. If you accidentally step on one, you're in serious trouble. In fact, killing a cat even by accident could get you executed. So watch your step. You wander toward the Nile, where farmers are already waist-deep in muddy water, tending to their fields. They're planting wheat and barley, using simple wooden plows pulled by oxen. The sun beats down mercilessly, but they keep going, driven by habit and necessity. There's no weekend, no paid leave, no sick day. Just another sunrise, another day of survival. And then there's you, standing there, trying not to melt. Your linen tunic sticks to your skin. You swat at flies that refuse to take the hint. You think about taking a dip in the river to cool off, but then you remember there are crocodiles, big ones. Ancient Egypt had enough crocodiles to keep anyone humble. People respected them so much that they actually worshipped Wansabik, the crocodile god. Imagine praying to a creature that would happily make you a snack. You hear laughter behind you. A group of children are playing a game with stones, tossing them in the sand and laughing loudly. Their joy feels timeless, something familiar in a world that's otherwise completely foreign. It's strange, this place is harsh, hot, and strict, but somehow, it's full of life. People smile, barter, gossip, sing. The Nile gives them everything, and in return, they worship it like a living god. By midday, the heat becomes unbearable. Everyone retreats indoors or finds shade. The air hums with cicadas, and the sun feels like it's pressing down on your skull. You start to understand why Egyptians worshipped the sun. It's so powerful it practically controls your mood, your work, your very survival. Ra, the sun god, is everywhere in prayers, in art, in stories. He sails his golden boat across the sky every day and battles chaos every night. You kind of envy him, because at least he gets to leave when the day ends. You sit under a palm tree, trying to catch a breeze. The smell of baked bread drifts by, mixed with the faint aroma of fish drying in the sun. Somewhere, a woman hums softly while grinding flour. Life here moves at its own rhythm, slow but relentless. You can't rush it, you can't stop it, you just live it. You glance at the horizon, at the endless sand dunes shimmering under the sun, and for a moment it feels beautiful, quiet, timeless, ancient. But then a fly lands on your face, and you remember you are still stuck in a world with no fans, no cold water, and no bug spray. You're not sure how long you'd last here, but one thing's clear: this place wasn't built for comfort, it was built for endurance. You lie back in the shade, listening to the rustle of the palm leaves, the gentle lap of the Nile in the distance. It's strange and peaceful. Maybe you could get used to this. If you don't melt first. The sound of voices pulls you from your half-sleep under the tree. The village is alive again, people returning to their chores, their movements rhythmic and practiced. An old man walks past carrying a basket of mud bricks balanced on his head. His skin glistens under the sunlight, his body lean and strong from years of labor. He nods politely at you, then keeps going. Everyone here has a role, and everyone knows exactly what they're supposed to do. You, on the other hand, have no idea what's happening. Someone hands you a jug of water, the clay cool against your hands. You take a sip, and the earthy taste fills your mouth. The Nile is their lifeline, but it's not exactly bottled spring water. You can almost taste the silt. Still, it's better than nothing. Egyptians are masters at surviving their environment. Every drop, every grain, every breath of wind matters. You start to realize how fragile comfort is, how much effort it takes just to exist here. A group of women are down by the river, washing linen and laughing. They slap the fabric against smooth stones, chatting about the latest temple gossip. One of them waves to you, amused at your confused expression. Their skin glows bronze in the sunlight, their hair dark and oiled to keep away lice. Hygiene here is surprisingly important. Egyptians bathe daily in the Nile, using a mix of natron, natural salt and oils. They even shave their heads to avoid fleas. Wigs made from human hair or plant fibers are worn for style, and everyone loves perfume. If you smell good, people assume you're civilized. You try washing up, mimicking their routine. The water is warm and gritty, but somehow refreshing. You rub some natron on your arms and nearly cough. It burns like soap from another dimension. Still, after a while, you do feel cleaner, lighter, maybe even a bit ancient yourself. For a brief moment, you can almost imagine fitting in here. Then a frog hops out of the water and lands on your leg, and you yelp loud enough to make the women laugh. You wander through the narrow alleys again. The sun has shifted, and long shadows stretch across the mud walls. Chickens dart past your feet, goats nibble on whatever looks edible, and children chase each other through the dust. You see a man painting on a small limestone slab carefully, patiently, his brush steady as he draws the face of a god. The colors are vivid: red, blue, gold. Art here isn't just decoration, it's sacred. Every symbol means something. Every line is a prayer. You watch for a while, mesmerized by how alive everything feels, even in this dry world. Then comes the work. You've barely adjusted to the heat when someone mistakes you for a laborer. You're handed a basket of straw mixed with mud and told to start packing it into molds. It's the ancient Egyptian version of making bricks, and it's brutal. The mud squishes between your fingers, your back bends, and the sun burns down like a punishment from the gods. You realize just how heavy a single day of survival is here. By modern standards, this would be extreme labor, but to them, it's just life. A foreman shouts instructions in a language you don't understand, but the tone is universal. Work harder. Sweat drips down your face, stinging your eyes. You try not to think about how far away air conditioning is. Somewhere nearby, someone starts singing a slow, rhythmic chant that helps keep time with the work. It's hypnotic. The sound of dozens of voices blends with the slap of mud and the shuffle of feet. It's almost beautiful, in a strange, exhausting way. When you finally get a short break, You sit by the shade of a half-built wall. The air shimmers with heat. You look down at your hands, covered in dried clay, and wonder how anyone survives this for a lifetime. The man next to you grins, his teeth white against his sun-darkened skin. He offers you a piece of bread, cracked and hard. You bite into it, and it's rough, grainy. There's actual sand in it. You try to smile, pretending to enjoy it, but it feels like eating a rock. Still, you nod in thanks. Hospitality is sacred here, and refusing food is rude. In the distance, you can hear a flute playing. The melody is soft, ancient, and slightly sad. It drifts across the air like a lullaby from another world. Music here isn't just for fun, it's a way to honor the gods, to make work bearable, to remind people of beauty in the middle of hardship. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the sound wash over you. The world slows down. The dust, the sweat, the noise, all of it fades. But peace never lasts long in Egypt. The foreman calls again, and the workers rise instantly. The rhythm of labor begins anew. You stand, legs trembling, and try to follow. The air smells like wet earth and smoke. Every swing of the arm feels heavier than the last. You imagine pyramid workers, hauling limestone blocks the size of small cars, day after day under this same blazing sun. The pyramids weren't built by magic, they were built by endurance, by thousands of ordinary people who refused to stop. And suddenly, you understand something about Egypt. It's not just a land of gods and gold, it's a civilization built on discipline. Everyone knows their place, their duty, their role in the grand order of life. The farmers feed the people, the workers build the temples, the priests keep the gods happy, and the pharaoh stands above all, half man, half divine. It's not freedom as you know it, but it's harmony. And that's what keeps Egypt alive. By late afternoon, your body feels like it's been carved out of clay. You stumble back toward the village, dizzy and sunburned. The streets are quieter now, filled with the smell of baking bread and roasting fish. You hear laughter again, families preparing the evening meal. A child runs past with a reed toy, giggling. Somewhere nearby, a mother scolds her son for sneaking dates from the bowl. Life here is hard, but it's warm, full of noise and care. You wash your hands again in a basin of Nile water and sit quietly as the sky turns orange. The air cools slightly, the day slipping into evening. You watch as people light small oil lamps, their flickering glow soft against the walls. The chatter fades into murmurs, then into calm silence. You exhale slowly, your body aching but strangely peaceful. You survived the morning, barely, but the day isn't over yet. And something tells you the night here might be even stranger. The air is softer now. The heat that ruled the day is finally loosening its grip, and a warm breeze drifts in from the Nile. You sit outside a mud brick house, your back against the wall, watching the village settle into its quiet rhythm. A few chickens cluck lazily nearby, and the smell of smoke from clay ovens fills the air. Dinner time in ancient Egypt isn't glamorous, but it has its charm. Someone offers you a bowl of stew, lentils, leeks, maybe a few bits of dried fish. It's simple but surprisingly tasty. Egyptians didn't waste much. Every ingredient had a purpose. Bread, beer, onions and garlic made up most of their diet. If you were lucky, you'd get some figs or dates for dessert. You eat slowly, savoring the earthy flavors, trying not to think about how much sand has made its way into your food. It's everywhere. Every bite crunches a little. You smile politely anyway. Families sit together on woven mats, sharing bowls, talking softly as the sky turns purple. There's laughter, even after a day of endless labor. Someone cracks a joke, and a few heads tilt back in easy laughter. You can't understand the words, but the warmth is universal. These people have survived flood and drought, kings and chaos, yet they still find reasons to laugh. Maybe that's how civilizations last for thousands of years, by finding joy in the cracks. You look toward the horizon where the sun melts into gold, painting the river in liquid light. The air smells of baked bread and wet soil, and for a moment, you forget how far from home you are. This place, this ancient land, feels oddly alive, as if every breeze carries whispers from the gods. You close your eyes and listen. Somewhere, a temple bell rings, calling people to evening prayers. Religion isn't just a part of life, here it's the air they breathe. Everything has spiritual weight. Every sunrise is a gift from Ra, the sun god. Every flood of the Nile is the mercy of Hopi. Every shadow has meaning. You notice how people pause before eating, murmuring small blessings, thanking unseen forces for their meal. Even the poorest peasant believes they play a role in the grand cosmic order. It's not about wealth or power, it's about balance, about mat, the harmony of life itself. You remember seeing the temple earlier, the way its columns rose high above the village, covered in painted hieroglyphs. Inside, the priests were chanting, waving incense, and offering food to statues of gods. It might seem strange to you, feeding stone figures, but to them, it's essential. The gods must be honored, nourished, respected. Without their blessing, the Nile might dry, the crops might fail, or worse, chaos might return. The Egyptians feared chaos like people today fear silence. A group of children nearby are chasing a ball made of papyrus fiber. Their laughter echoes across the street, and you can't help but smile. Life feels so simple here, so raw and immediate. No screens, no noise, no rush. Just the rhythm of existence, tied to the sun and river. The simplicity is peaceful and terrifying. There's no safety net here. No medicine if you get sick. No comfort if you grow weak. Survival depends on the community, and on the mercy of the gods. An old woman sits beside you, her face lined like cracked clay. She hums softly, weaving reeds into a basket. Her hands move with memory, not thought. You watch, hypnotized by her calm focus. Every move has purpose, every gesture, patience. Its strange time feels slower here, but deeper too. Like every moment stretches longer, holds more meaning. You start to understand why people built monuments that could outlast generations. In a land where days are hard, the idea of eternity becomes comforting. As the light fades, you notice how the colors of Egypt shift. The harsh brightness of day gives way to deep golds and cool blues. The Nile reflects the stars beginning to appear, shimmering like molten silver. It's breathtaking. You can see why they worshipped the sky. Feels close enough to touch. Somewhere, a priest begins reciting hymns to Hathor, goddess of love and music. The melody floats through the warm air, mingling with the scent of lotus flowers. You're handed another cup of beer, thicker, darker this time. You sip it slowly, feeling the faint buzz spread through your limbs. Laughter grows louder around the fire. Someone claps a rhythm, and another person joins in with a small drum made of animal skin. The music builds gently, rhythmic and repetitive, almost like a heartbeat. Egyptians loved music. They played flutes, harps, sistrums, and lyres, not just for entertainment but for connection to each other, to the divine. You find yourself swaying slightly, lulled by the rhythm. The flames flicker, casting warm light over tired faces. The night is soft, the world smaller, and everything feels suspended between dream and memory. You realize something: you're starting to relax. Despite the heat, the sweat, the exhaustion, there's something deeply human about this moment. People laughing, eating, sharing stories after a long date feels timeless. You could be anywhere, in any century, and it would feel the same. The stars grow brighter, scattered across the sky like shards of crystal. The moon hangs low, a pale silver boat drifting over the desert. You lie back, your head resting on your arm, and just stare upward. The sky here feels enormous. No city lights, no noise, just the endless hum of the night. You can almost hear the desert breathe. Someone nearby starts telling a story, probably a myth. You catch fragments of it, a tale of gods and monsters, of love and betrayal, of Ra's daily battle against darkness. The storyteller's voice rises and falls like a song, each word pulling the listeners deeper. The children's eyes are wide, the adults nod quietly, half listening, half dreaming. The story feels alive, ancient, and yet somehow familiar. Every culture tells stories at night, but here, they sound eternal. You feel your eyes growing heavy, your body sinking deeper into the earth. The sounds around you blur: the laughter, the river, the music. It all blends into a low, soothing hum. The air is warm against your skin, the scent of smoke and lotus flowers lingering in your nose. You breathe slowly, deeply, and for the first time since you arrived, you feel at peace. Tomorrow will come with more heat, more labor, more dust. But tonight, the ancient world is gentle. You drift somewhere between waking and dreaming, between your time and theirs, and you realize maybe you could last one more night here, if the gods allow it. The night in Egypt doesn't arrive quietly. It descends like a velvet curtain, thick and warm, wrapping the world in stillness. The laughter fades, the fire dies down, and only the crackle of cooling embers remains. You lie on your mat, eyes half open, listening to the hum of crickets and the gentle lap of the Nile. The stars above seem impossibly close, like a million tiny gods watching from their golden thrones. Your body aches from the day. Every muscle feels stretched, your hands rough with dried mud. The smell of smoke and sweat clings to your skin, but you're too tired to care. Someone nearby yawns, another murmurs a short prayer. People are settling in for sleep. There are no beds here, no blankets, just woven mats and the cool breath of the desert. The night is a strange time in Egypt. To you, it's rest. To them, it's a journey. Sleep isn't just about closing your eyes, it's a sacred act, a temporary visit to the world of dreams, where the soul wanders freely. Egyptians believed that when you sleep, your other part of your soul with wings leaves your body and flies through the realms of gods and spirits. If you dream of light or of gods smiling upon you, it's a blessing. But if your dreams are dark or filled with shadows, that's a warning. Someone hummed softly, a lullaby to the goddess Hathor, protector of love and joy. The tune is ancient, older than any written language, and it drifts through the night like a forgotten memory. You close your eyes, breathing slowly, and try to sink into the rhythm of this world. The air is thick but peaceful. You can hear the Nile whispering beyond the fields, carrying life through the darkness. It's a sound that has never stopped, not in thousands of years. You roll onto your side and notice a small oil lamp flickering nearby. Its flame dances lazily, throwing golden shadows across the wall. On that wall, painted figures of gods seem to move in the light. Anubis, the jackal-headed guardian of the dead. Isis, the mother goddess, holding her wings protectively around her child. And Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, holding a scroll as if taking notes on your every thought. You stare for a long moment, half expecting them to blink. It's easy to see why the Egyptians were obsessed with the afterlife. When you live in a land where life is so fragile, death can't be ignored. It becomes a part of the rhythm. The night reminds them of that balance, darkness and light, chaos and order, life and death. Everything exists in a delicate harmony. Even the way they sleep feels ritualistic, a rehearsal for eternity. A dog barks in the distance, then silence again. You hear footsteps nearby, soft and cautious. Someone is making an offering at a small household shrine, perhaps lighting incense or leaving a bit of bread for the spirits. Egyptians didn't wait for temples to pray. Every home had a corner for the divine, a space where families whispered to gods before bed, asking for protection through the night. You can smell the faint sweetness of burning resin, the smoke curling lazily toward the roof. You think about your own bed, back home, pillows, blankets, the hum of a fan. It feels impossibly far away now, like a dream from another life. Here you have only the ground, the stars, and the sound of your heartbeat mixing with the rhythm of the Nile. But strangely, you don't mind. There's something grounding about it, something ancient. The world feels simpler when you strip it down to its bones. You turn again, eyes heavy but mind still drifting. You wonder what dreams might look like in a place like this. Would you see the gods, the pyramids glowing under moonlight, or the endless desert stretching into forever? Egyptians took dreams seriously. There were even dream interpreters, priests, who could read the messages hidden in sleep. A dream of water meant renewal. A dream of snakes might be a warning, and dreaming of the dead. That was a conversation with ancestors. You drift halfway into sleep, and the world begins to shift. The crackle of fire becomes waves against the shore. The air thickens with the scent of lotus blossoms. You see flashes, golden masks, shining temples, a river of stars flowing across the sky. Maybe this is what they meant by the soul's journey. For a moment, it feels endless and gentle, like floating between worlds. But then something stirs you awaker. Low rumble, far away. You open your eyes. The night is darker now, the moon hidden behind drifting clouds. A wind sweeps through the village, stirring sand across the ground. The palm leaves whisper and shiver. Someone sits up, murmuring, "That's Set, the god of storms, is restless tonight." People make small, protective gestures, whispering prayers to keep evil spirits away. You pull your mat closer to the wall and try to stay calm. The Egyptians lived surrounded by gods, both kind and cruel. Every shadow, every breeze, every strange sound at night could mean something. They believed demons wandered in darkness, feeding on fear and misfortune. To protect themselves, they wore amulets, tiny charms carved with spells. Maybe you should have gotten one earlier, you think, as the wind whistles louder. After a while, the storm fades. The air grows still again, and the sky clears, revealing stars brighter than ever. The people settle back down, whispering thanks to the gods for sparing them. You stare at the constellations, wondering if the Egyptians saw them the same way you do. To them, the stars weren't just distant suns, they were souls, eternal and watchful. The Milky Way was the heavenly river, mirroring the Nile on earth. As above, so below. You find yourself growing sleepy again. The sounds of the night blend into a gentle hum, the river, the insects, the soft breathing of those around you. You imagine your bar spreading its wings, soaring over the land of Egypt, gliding above the dark fields, the glowing temples, the sleeping cities. Somewhere in the distance, a priest lights another lamp, keeping the balance between worlds. You exhale slowly, sinking deeper into the mat. Your body is sore, your mind hazy, but a strange calm settles over you. The night feels endless, but comforting, like being wrapped in the breath of time itself. You wonder if you'll dream of pyramids tonight, or of home, maybe both. But before you can decide, the darkness takes you gently, and ancient Egypt holds you in its arms. You wake before the sun, not because you want to, but because the world around you demands it. The first light of morning creeps through the cracks of the mud brick walls, thin and golden, and the air feels cooler for a brief, merciful moment. Somewhere, a rooster crows, announcing the day to no one in particular. The Nile is quiet, a mirror of pale blue stretching toward the horizon. You stretch on your mat, bones cracking, every muscle stiff from yesterday's work. For a second, you think about staying still, but in ancient Egypt, laziness isn't an option. The day begins when Ra, the sun god, rises from the underworld, and you're expected to rise with him. Everyone does. Farmers, fishermen, servants, even priests. No one sleeps in when the sun god himself is clocking in. Someone nearby stirs a clay pot, and the smell of baking bread fills the air, warm, nutty, slightly smoky. Breakfast is simple: flatbread, maybe a few dates, and a sip of beer so thick it's almost like porridge. Egyptians didn't have coffee, but beer was their version of morning fuel. It's sour, heavy, and surprisingly nutritious. You take a hesitant sip and immediately understand why it's more common than water. The Nile's not exactly clean, and at least beer won't kill you. Outside, the village is already coming alive. Women kneel by the riverbank, washing clothes and chatting quietly. Children chase each other in the sand, their laughter carrying through the air. Men prepare tools for the fields: hoes, baskets, ropes. The rhythm of life is steady, predictable, and strangely comforting. Everyone knows their role, their place, their god. You step outside and feel the warmth of the sun spreading over the land. It's not harsh yet, just a gentle glow brushing the tops of the date palms. The air smells of wet earth and smoke from breakfast fires. A few people pause to face the rising sun, murmuring short prayers. "Ra, shine upon us," they whisper. You join them quietly, unsure if you're doing it right, but no one seems to mind. Here, faith isn't private, it's woven into every breath. Near the edge of the village, an old man kneels beside a small household shrine. He offers bread and pours a bit of beer onto the ground, muttering words to the gods. You watch as he presses his forehead to the earth. It's not about showing off, it's gratitude. Every sunrise is proof that Ordermat still holds the world together. In their minds, without Mat, everything would collapse into chaos. The Nile might dry up, crops could fail, and demons could slip through the cracks of the underworld. So, each morning, they thank the gods for keeping things running smoothly. You start to help with morning chores, though no one asks you to. Fetching water from the Nile seems simple enough, till you realize how heavy those clay jars get after a few steps. The women make it look effortless, balancing them on their heads, while chatting like it's nothing. You, on the other hand, spill half your jar before you're halfway home. Someone laughs softly, not unkindly. You grin back, embarrassed. It's fine. Everyone's new to Egypt once. By now, the sun climbs higher, and the gentle warmth starts turning into a slow burn. The air thickens. You squint against the brightness as the light bounces off the sand, blinding and endless. People start wrapping linen around their heads and shoulders to protect their skin. There's no shade except what the mud brick houses provide, and even that feels like standing under a hair. The farmers are already heading to the fields, their feet sinking slightly into the damp soil near the water's edge. You join them, curious, stepping into the mud. It's warm between your toes, squishy and alive with insects. The Nile's flood season has passed, leaving behind rich black earth perfect for planting. You watch as they scatter seeds by hand: barley, wheat, flaxland, then use simple wooden tools to cover them. It's slow, repetitive work, but there's a rhythm to it, like breathing. Someone hums a work song, low and melodic. The others join in, their voices blending with the sound of rustling reeds and splashing water. You can't understand the words, but the tune feels timeless. It's not about music, it's about unity, keeping pace, keeping balance. The song carries across the fields, soft but strong, like a heartbeat. After an hour, your arms ache, sweat runs down your back, and the linen sticks to your skin. You glance around and realize everyone else looks fine. They've done this since childhood, bodies shaped by sun and soil. You, though you're melting. Someone hands you a clay jug of water, smiling. You take a long drink, and it tastes faintly of clay and Nile. Not refreshing, but it keeps you alive. Nearby, a priest passes on his way to the temple. His white linen robe glows in the sunlight, spotless despite the dust. He carries a small basket of offerings: flowers, bread, maybe incense. He doesn't look at anyone, walking with that quiet confidence only holy men have. The farmers stop for a moment to bow their heads slightly, not out of fear, but respect. The gods are everywhere, but the priests are their translators. You notice the temple in the distance, a low, wide structure of stone, decorated with painted carvings. It's small compared to the great temples of Thebes or Memphis, but it's still impressive. Even in the smallest towns, the gods are given beautiful homes. You wonder what it's like inside. Maybe you'll find out later. For now, the sun climbs higher, the fields shimmer, and you start to feel dizzy. The heat presses down like a weight, the air rippling with invisible fire. You wipe your forehead and realize your skin is already pink. Sunscreen doesn't exist yet. Shade barely does either, and you still have half a day left. You look around at the farmers, smiling, chatting, working without complaint. They're part of this land in a way you can't imagine. The Nile gives, the sun burns, the gods watch, and they keep going. It's beautiful, but you can't shake the thought, you wouldn't last a day here. The sun no longer rises, it conquers. By the time it's mid-morning, the warmth that once felt gentle and golden has turned into something merciless. The light cuts down like a blade, stripping color from everything it touches. The air shimmers above the sand, bending the horizon into a mirage. You squint, but there's no escaping it. Even the Nile, once silver blue in the early light, now burns white with reflection. The farmers barely pause. They move like a living machine, silent, sure, practiced. Sweat darkens their linen kilts. Muscles gleam like bronze. They've learned to survive under this sky. They wrap damp cloths around their heads, take slow, measured breaths, and work as if the heat is just another part of their body. You, meanwhile, are melting. The sweat stings your eyes, your clothes stick to your back, and every step feels heavier. You start to understand why Egyptians worshipped the sun, not because it was gentle, but because it was unstoppable. You don't argue with something that powerful, you make peace with it. A young man beside you laughs softly, his teeth bright against his sun-dark skin. He gestures toward the temple in the distance and says something in a language you can't quite follow. Then he makes the sign of Ra, tracing a circle over his chest. You nod, pretending you understand, but deep down, you do. The sun is the center of everything. After a while, the work slows. The overseer, an older man with a reed staff, raises his hand and signals for a break. You drop your hoe with a sigh of relief and stumble toward a patch of shade by a palm tree. It's barely enough to fit 3 people, but everyone gathers close, grateful for even a sliver of coolness. Someone passes around a basket of flatbread and dried fish. The smell ice and tea exactly pleasant, it is salty and sharp, but it fills the emptiness in your stomach. The bread is rough, full of sand that crunches between your teeth, but you chew it anyway. Egyptians didn't have refined flour, and over time, all that grit wore down their teeth until only jagged stumps remained. You realize, chewing carefully, that your dentist back home would have a heart attack if they saw this. Still, it's food, and food is life. Someone pours a small jug of beer. It's thick, cloudy and warm, but you drink gratefully. It leaves a yeasty film on your tongue and a faint buzz in your head. For a moment, you feel light. The sound of insects fades, and the rhythmic splash of water from nearby irrigation channels lulls you into a daze. The fields sway gently in the breeze, golden green under the burning light. You could almost fall asleep here if the air weren't so heavy. The priest's chant reaches your ears before you see him, a deep, slow tone rising and falling like waves. He's standing at the edge of the temple compound now, flanked by 2 attendants carrying fans made of ostrich feathers. The sound is mesmerizing, part prayer, part command. The farmers stand when they hear it. Even the overseer lowers his head. You follow their gaze toward the temple, drawn by the echoing rhythm. The temple isn't grand like the ones you've seen in pictures. Its modest stone walls painted with fading colors, the doorway guarded by statues of jackal-headed Anubis. But it holds power, quiet and immense. You can feel it in your chest, like standing near thunder before a storm. You approach cautiously, the heat radiating off the stones. The air smells of incensuate, resinous, ancient. Inside, the light dims, the noise of the fields fades until all that's left is your own heartbeat. The walls are covered in hieroglyphs, stories of gods and kings, life and death, written in patient, eternal lines. You run your fingers across the carvings, feeling grooves worn smooth by centuries of touch. At the far end of the room stands a small altar. Upon it rests a figure of a Godra, the sun itself, carved in gold and obsidian. The priest moves with practiced grace, his steps silent on the stone floor. He sprinkles water from the Nile across the altar, then lays down offerings, bread, lotus flowers, and a bit of honey. Each motion feels deliberate, almost mathematical. He whispers prayers in a low voice, words older than memory, shaped by breath and devotion. You don't understand them, but you don't need to. The air vibrates faintly, charged with belief. You realize something strange. In this world, religion isn't a separate thing, it's everywhere. Every action, every job, every sunrise and harvest is part of a divine conversation. People here don't just believe in gods, they live among them. A young acolyte notices you standing awkwardly near the doorway. He gestures for you to come closer, handing you a small bowl of perfumed oil. You hesitate, then follow his example, dipping your fingers and sprinkling a few drops at the base of the statue. The oil catches the light, shimmering briefly before soaking into the stone. The priest looks at you and nods, his eyes kind but unreadable. You've just made your first offering in ancient Egypt. Outside, the air feels heavier now, as if the sun itself had been waiting for you to step out again. The brightness stings your eyes. You blink against it, your vision swimming in gold and white. A group of children run past, laughing, their bare feet kicking up clouds of dust. Somewhere nearby, a woman sings as she grinds grain, her rhythm matching the pulse of the day. You wander back toward the river, craving the coolness of water. The Nile glimmers like liquid glass. You kneel at the edge and splash your face, sighing in relief. The water is warm, but after hours under the sun, even warmth feels like mercy. You notice a few crocodiles drifting lazily in the distance, eyes half submerged. No one seems alarmed. Egyptians respected them, some even worshipped them. The crocodile god, Sobek, was both feared and loved, a protector and destroyer. You think about that duality, how everything in Egypt seems to hold both light and shadow. The Nile gives life, but it can also flood and kill. The sun nourishes crops but burns the skin. Even the gods themselves can bless or curse depending on their mood. It's a world balanced on the edge of chaos, kept steady only by faith and habit. As the afternoon drags on, the heat reaches its peak. The fields shimmer like liquid gold. You try to help again, but your body protests. Your limbs feel heavy, your thoughts sluggish. Sweat runs down your arms in rivers. The workers don't stop. They move with slow efficiency, pausing only to drink or wipe their brows. You realize they're not just enduring, they're thriving. This is their rhythm, their world. You, on the other hand, are running out of energy. Your head throbs. You can feel the pulse behind your eyes. The air smells of dust and sunburnt earth, and every breath feels like swallowing fire. You glance at the sky, hoping for a cloud, just one, but Egypt's sky is a flawless, merciless blue. Finally, the overseer signals another pause. You collapse under the nearest shade and lie flat, chest heaving. A woman nearby chuckles and tosses you a wet cloth. You press it to your forehead, grateful beyond words. She says something softly, probably teasing Ubud. There's warmth in her tone. She sits beside you, rolling dough into small balls and flattening them onto a clay board. She uses a makeshift oven built from stones and sand, heated by the blazing sun. Within minutes, the dough puffs and hardens, turning golden. She breaks one in half and hands it to you. It's hot and crisp, the flavor simple but good. Bread is sacred here, not just food, but a connection to the divine. They even bury bread with the dead, so no soul goes hungry on its journey to the afterlife. You eat slowly, watching the horizon ripple. Time loses its shape. The hum of flies, the crunch of bread, the distant chanting from the temple, they all blend together. You're not just observing ancient Egypt anymore. You're part of it. Then, a sound carries across the fields, a deep, steady drumbeat. The farmers pause, glancing toward the river. A small procession is approaching. At its head, priests in white robes carry a wooden bark, a miniature boat gilded in gold leaf. On it sits an idol of Hathor, goddess of love and joy. The villagers gather, murmuring in awe. It's a ritual procession, a celebration of fertility and life. The priests chant, the people clap softly, and someone plays a flute made of reed. The melody is haunting and bright at the same time. You feel a strange warmth in your chest, something ancient and joyful. Even after hours of heat and exhaustion, these people find room for worship, laughter, and music. The priest sprinkles water from the Nile over the crowd. Drops land on your arms, cool against burning skin. You look up, blinking. The sun glints off the golden idol, making it seem alive. Hathor's serene smile reflects in every face around you. For a moment, the whole village feels connected, human, divine, eternal. Then, as quickly as it began, the procession moves on. The drums fade, the villagers return to their tasks, and the day resumes its relentless rhythm. You sit there, staring at the water, realizing that for Egyptians, there was never truly a break between work and worship. Life itself was the ritual. Every act, planting, eating, singing, praying, was a thread in the same sacred tapestry. As the shadows begin to lengthen, you finally feel the edge of relief. The heat softens. The wind carries a hint of coolness. The sun, after ruling the sky all day, starts its slow descent toward the western horizon, the realm of the dead. For Egyptians, sunset isn't just an ending, it's a journey. Ra begins his nightly voyage through the underworld, battling chaos so that dawn might come again. You think about that as you watch the golden light fade. Maybe that's what it means to live here, not to escape hardship, but to trust in the cycle. Every scorching day ends in cool night, every death in rebirth. It's a balance as old as time. You lean back against the tree, eyes half closed. Your skin burns, your clothes are stiff with dust, but your heart feels strangely full. You've survived Egypt's sun barely, but it's left its mark. You understand now why the people here move slowly, why they pray often, why they build with patience and precision. They live not against nature, but with it. The Nile murmurs softly, as if agreeing. The world begins to glow in bronze and amber light. The air smells faintly of smoke and honey. Somewhere, a temple bell rings low, resonant, ancient. You close your eyes for a moment and listen. Maybe, just maybe, you could last another day. The light begins to change long before you notice it. At first, it's subtle. The brightness softens. The edges of things blur, and the golden heat that's been punishing you all day finally starts to loosen its grip. The air no longer presses against your skin. It sighs. The fields, once blinding with sunlight, begin to shimmer in tones of amber and bronze. The farmers sense it instantly. Without a word, their movements shift slower, easier, no longer driven by survival but by habit. The day's work has a natural rhythm here, tied to the sun's path. When Ra begins his descent toward the horizon, so does everyone else. You hear tools being set down, wooden handles thumping softly into the dirt. Someone laughs, someone else stretches, rubbing sore shoulders. It's a collective exhale after a day lived under fire. The Nile glows now, its surface catching the last light like a sheet of molten copper. A faint breeze ripples across it, carrying the smell of wet earth and reeds. You watch as a few children wade knee-deep into the shallows, their laughter echoing across the water. A fisherman rows slowly past, his oar slicing through the reflection of the sun. The world feels suspended in this moment, caught between exhaustion and peace. Someone calls your name or something close to it, and gestures toward the riverbank. It's time to wash off the day. You follow, stepping carefully down the uneven path toward the water. Your feet sink into the damp soil, cool and soft after hours of dust. The villagers are already there, men, women, children, all gathered by the edge of the Nile. It's not a private ritual. It's communal, natural, almost sacred. You kneel and scoop water over your arms, feeling the shock of coolness spread through your body. The Nile may look calm, but it's alive, heavy with silt, insects, and the faint pulse of the current. Still, it feels miraculous. You splash your face again and again, until your skin no longer feels like it's burning. The air smells faintly metallic and sweet, the scent of life itself. Nearby, women scrub their linen clothes against smooth stones, singing softly as they work. The songs are rhythmic, half melody, half chant, old tunes passed down through generations. The words are hard to understand, but the tone says everything: weariness, gratitude, and the small, unspoken joy of simply being alive at the end of another day. You look upriver and the temple is still visible, bathed in orange light. Smoke curls lazily from its roof, evening incense offered to Ra as he begins his descent into the underworld. The priests will chant through the twilight, asking him to return safely with the dawn. You wonder what the world feels like to them, half god, half guardian, standing between light and darkness every single day. You dip your head one more time, letting the water run through your hair. It's gritty, full of sand, but still cleaner than before. You watch as people fill jars and baskets, water for drinking, washing, cooking, every drop carefully used. The Nile isn't just a river, it's everything. Without it, there's no Egypt, no crops, no life. As you walk back toward the village, the air feels different, cooler, softer, touched with the smell of smoke and cooking. Fires flicker between the houses, glowing like tiny stars. Someone's roasting fish on a flat stone. Someone else grinds herbs with a pestle, their rhythmic motion blending into the hum of the evening. A child chases a stray cat through the dust, laughing so hard they hiccup. You sit down near a group of workers gathered round a fire. They wave you over, smiling, their faces glowing orange in the light. One of them hands you a clay cup of something warm, thick beer again, this time flavored with dates. It's sweet, heavy, and strangely comforting. The day's exhaustion sits deep in your bones, but so does a new kind of peace. Someone passes around bread. It's coarse and smoky, baked right in the ashes of the fire. Another person offers a small bowl of lentils, soft, seasoned with garlic and cumin. The smell alone is heavenly after a day in the sun. You eat slowly, grateful for every bite. Around you, the conversation flows, not in words you understand, but in tone, laughter, and gestures. People tease each other, tell stories, share little bits of news. Who traded what? Who lost a goat? Whose daughter just got betrothed? It's simple, human, timeless. You could close your eyes and almost believe you were sitting at a modern dinner table, minus the smartphones and tablecloths. Someone begins to hum again, the same slow rhythm you heard in the fields earlier. This time, a woman joins in, her voice high and clear. The song weaves through the firelight like smoke. Even the children grow quiet, listening. It's about the Nile. You think about its rise and fall, about the promise of flood and harvest. You can feel the emotion even without knowing the words. Music in Egypt isn't just for joy. It's a bridge between worlds, between the living and the divine, between today and eternity. A well-sung song is a prayer, a form of worship. As the fire crackles, someone brings out a carved wooden instrument, a lute-like thing called a nefer. The man plucks at its strings, each note soft and trembling. Another taps a small hand drum, steady as a heartbeat. The rhythm builds slowly, hypnotic, like the pulse of the earth. You lean back, eyes half closed, the sound washing over you. Above you, the sky deepens into violet. The first stars appear, faint and distant at first, then brighter. The villagers glance upward, they always do. For them, the stars aren't cold, faraway suns, they're spirits, souls of ancestors, kings, and gods, watching over the world. The Milky Way, they believe, is a heavenly Nile, the river of the afterlife, where Ra sails at night. The air cools fast now. You can feel goosebumps rise on your arms as the desert breeze sweeps through the village. The fire pops softly, sending sparks into the dark. The smell of cooking lingers, fish, bread, smoke, and the faint sweetness of dates. A few people start tidying up, stacking jars, covering baskets, gathering sleeping mats. You stand and stretch, feeling your spine crack. Someone pats your back and says something you don't catch, but the tone is unmistakable, friendly, amused. You've survived another Egyptian day, barely. The older men drift toward a smaller fire nearby, talking in low voices. You follow at a respectful distance, curious. They're discussing the flood, when it might come, how high it will rise this year. The Nile's flooding isn't random, it's sacred. It's the lifeblood of Egypt, the difference between abundance and famine. And yet, no one here fears it. They trust it, as they trust the sun to rise again. The women, meanwhile, are combing each other's hair, untangling the day's knots, braiding it neatly for sleep. Children doze against their mothers' laps. The village feels like one big family, every sound, every flicker of light part of a shared heartbeat. A few priests pass by on their way back from the temple, carrying lanterns made of clay and linen. The glow paints their faces in gold. They move in silence, their robes fluttering slightly in the breeze. The crowd parts for them instinctively, not out of fear, but reverence. One of them pauses near you, holding the light close enough that you can see the fine wrinkles around his eyes. He studies you for a moment, then smiles faintly. He reaches into his robe and pulls out a small amulet, a scarab carved from green stone. Without a word, he presses it into your hand. It's warm from his touch. For protection, he says, his voice quiet, but clear enough to understand. You look down at it, the scarab, symbol of rebirth, of the sun's endless journey. It's simple, beautiful, and strangely heavy. You thank him, though the words catch in your throat. He nods once, then moves on, the light fading with him. You turn the scarab over in your hand. Its edges are worn smooth, the carved wings delicate but firm. Egyptians believed that scarabs could ward off evil spirits, that they carried the promise of tomorrow. Holding it, you feel a strange connection, not just to this place, but to every person who ever stood under this sky, trusting the same gods, facing the same sun. The fire burns lower, the night deepens. The world feels quieter now, as if the land itself were breathing. Somewhere, an owl hoots. The villagers begin to settle, laying mats, folding linen, whispering prayers. The stars above gleam brighter, clearer than you've ever seen. You lie back on your mat, the earth firm beneath you, the sky endless above. Your body aches, your eyelids grow heavy, but your mind drifts between waking and dream. You can still hear the faint lapping of the Nile, the murmur of voices fading into sleep. The heat of the day is gone, replaced by the cool, soft breath of night. For a moment, you think of home, your bed, your walls, your silence, and then you think of this world, its rhythm, its faith, its unbroken chain of life and death. You realize you've fallen in love with it, in a strange, gentle way. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. You clutch the scarab in your hand, feeling its weight, its promise. Somewhere, deep inside, you almost believe that if you sleep with it close, Ra himself might carry your soul safely through the night, just as he does the sun. You close your eyes, and the world fades into darkness. The fire crackles softly one last time, then fades into a bed of red coals. The sound of it, that quiet popping, is the last familiar noise before the night takes over. Everything else goes still. The chatter, the laughter, the rustling of linen all fade until there's only the faint whisper of the wind brushing through the reeds. The Nile is still awake, though its surface glimmers under the moonlight, rippling with silver. Every small wave catches the reflection of the stars, making it seem alive, a moving mirror of the heavens. You can almost believe what the priests say, that this isn't water at all, but a reflection of the celestial Nile, the river that runs through the afterlife. You lie on your side, the scarab still in your palm. The smooth stone feels warm, even now. The villagers around you have already drifted off, a sea of soft breathing, faint snores, and the occasional cough. The smell of smoke lingers in the air, mixed with crushed grass and faint perfume from someone's oil lamp. Somewhere near the edge of the village, a donkey brays softly, answered by another in the distance, then silence again. The night has its own pulse here, slow, patient, ancient. You stare up at the sky. The stars in Egypt feel different, closer, somehow. The Milky Way stretches across the blackness like a river of dust and diamonds. The Egyptians called it the winding waterway, the heavenly twin of their own Nile. And in it, they believed, sailed the god Ra, steering his golden bark through the realm of the dead. Each night, he battled darkness itself, the great serpent, Apophis, so that the sun might rise again. As you watch, the thought comes easily. Every sunrise here isn't just morning, it's victory. Every dawn is a miracle bought by a god's courage. Someone nearby murmurs in their sleep. Another shifts under their linen, turning over. The faint creak of woven mats sounds almost like waves. The air grows cooler still. You pull your thin blanket closer. The moonlight paints the sand silver, outlining every hut, every palm frond. The world feels suspended, not dead, not alive, just paused. Between breaths, you think of the people around you, the men who spent all day cutting grain, the women who sang at the river, the children chasing each other through the dust. Now they sleep, and their dreams, if the old beliefs are true, are more than just illusions. Egyptians believed dreams were doorways, messages from the gods. If you dream of clear water, it's a sign of peace. If you dream of eating bread, it's prosperity. But if you dream of a crocodile, that's a warning. Something dark, creeping, dangerous. You wonder what they'll dream tonight. The temple bell sounds faint, distant, a single low tone that rolls across the land. The priests are still awake, keeping watch through the night. They're performing the rituals that guide Ra's bark through the underworld, chanting words that are older than memory. The sound of that chant floats on the wind, carried down the Nile like smoke. Low, rhythmic, eternal. You close your eyes, letting the hum blend with the water's murmur. The language is ancient, but the feeling is easy to understand. Faith, hope, and the quiet terror of darkness. The darkness here isn't just absence of light, it's alive. To the Egyptians, night was a kingdom, a dangerous one. It belonged to the unseen, to spirits and gods and monsters that slithered through shadow. That's why they never truly slept without protection. Amulets, prayers, charms, scratched on papyrus and tucked under pillows. The scarab in your hand was one such charm. It wasn't just decoration. The beetle, they believed, rolled the sun across the sky, just as it rolled its ball of dung across the sand. A strange, humble creature turned divine. The scarab represented rebirth, the eternal cycle of day and night. To hold one was to hold the promise that darkness would end. You roll it gently between your fingers, tracing its tiny carved wings. There's comfort in the thought that even the smallest thing, like an insect, could be sacred. Your eyes grow heavy, your breathing slows. The sounds of the village dissolve, the water, the wind, the last soft rustle of someone's turning in their sleep. And then, there's nothing, only dream. At first, it's hard to tell if you're dreaming or awake. The moonlight looks the same, the air feels the same, but the village is gone. You're standing at the edge of the Nile, alone, though the river is far larger now, impossibly wide, black as obsidian, reflecting a sky full of stars you've never seen before. Something glows on the horizon, not fire, but golden light, pulsing faintly like a heartbeat. You step closer, and the water shifts beneath your feet. It's then you notice it, the great bark, golden, vast, sailing across the night sky as if the heavens were water. It glides silently, its hull carved with faces of gods, its sail made of light itself. At its center stands Ra, tall, radiant, crowned with the blazing sun disk. Around him gather other figures, Thoth with his ibis head and scrolls, Mat with her feather of truth, and behind them, a shadow, the serpent Apophis, coiled and waiting. You watch as the serpent rises from the darkness, its mouth opening wide enough to swallow stars. The boat shudders, the gods brace themselves. Ra raises his staff, the light flares, and for a moment the entire sky burns gold. Then, silence. The serpent retreats, and the boat sails on. You wake with a start. The world is still dark, but softer now, the moon lower, the stars fading slightly. The sound of the river has changed too. It feels slower, thicker, as if even the Nile sleeps. You blink, disoriented. The dream lingers like smoke. It felt so real. You look at the scarab still clutched in your hand, and for a moment, you could swear it's glowing faintly in the starlight. You smile to yourself, half amused, half in awe. Maybe it's just the reflection, or maybe not. A light rustle nearby draws your attention. One of the women has woken to tend her baby. She hums softly, a lullaby older than words. The tune drifts through the air, blending with the sound of the water. It's a melody of comfort, of endurance. The baby quiets, soothed. The Egyptians didn't separate life and death the way others do. To them, everything was part of one continuous rhythm: wake, sleep, birth, death, sunrise, sunset, all loops of the same eternal pattern. The world didn't end with death, it transformed, just as the sun disappeared each night, only to return at dawn. You think again of your dream of Ra's bark sailing through darkness. Maybe that's what sleep really is here, a small version of death, a journey through the underworld of your own mind. And morning, the daily miracle of rebirth. The air shifts, the faintest touch of warmth creeping in. The stars start to fade, one by one, swallowed by the coming light. Somewhere, a rooster crows, breaking the silence. Then another. The first pale line of dawn appears over the horizon. A dog stretches and shakes the dust from its fur. A woman stirs the embers of her fire. Someone yawns, someone else coughs. The village, still half asleep, begins to wake. And then, just as the first rays of sunlight brush the palm tops, the temple bell sounds again, this time bright and clear. The priests have seen the sun rise. Ra has won his battle. The world begins anew. You sit up slowly, rubbing your eyes. The sky burns gold again, as if nothing ever happened. The dream fades like mist, but its feeling remains deep, ancient, peaceful. The farmers stretch, grabbing their tools. The children chase the chickens again. The cycle repeats, just as it has for thousands of years. You look at the scarab once more before tucking it into your sash. Maybe it's superstition, maybe it's faith. But either way you feel lighter, protected, reborn. The woman you met yesterday, the one who sang by the river, waves at you from a distance. She's already carrying her basket, ready to begin again. You wave back, smiling. The air is warm again, alive with movement and sound. And just like that, another Egyptian day begins, as it always does, as it always will. The first light of morning rolls over the land like honey, thick and golden. It creeps across the roofs of the mud-brick houses, slides down palm trunks, and spills across the riverbank until the Nile looks like it's been set on fire by the gods. You stretch your arms, squinting against the glare, and feel the first hint of warmth gather on your skin. Morning in ancient Egypt doesn't feel like a new day. It feels like the return of something eternal. The villagers rise not just to live, but to take part in a divine rhythm that has no beginning or end. You can sense it in everything, the air, the light, even the way people move. A woman walks past you, balancing a woven basket on her head filled with barley. Her bare feet leave soft impressions in the sand. A child follows behind her carrying a clay jug of beer. You catch a faint whiff of yeast and sweetness as they pass. They nod politely, then head toward the fields, where the men are already setting up for another long day of work. But today, you're not following them. Today, you're going to the temple. The villagers speak of it in low voices, not out of fear, but respect. The temple isn't just a place of worship, it's the house of a god. To walk there is to step out of the world of mortals and into the world of eternity. You follow the dusty path that leads away from the river. The sun is still soft, the light almost silver. Birds wheel overhead, calling to each other. The air smells faintly of incense, resin and myrrh, drifting from somewhere up ahead. And then, you see it. The temple rises from the earth like it's grown there. Its massive stone walls are the color of sand, carved with deep hieroglyphs that seem to glow in the light. The entrance is guarded by two towering statues, the god Horus, falcon-headed and regal, his eyes painted black and sharp as knives. His gaze follows you as you approach. It's unsettling and magnificent at the same time. The temple courtyard is alive with quiet activity. Priests in crisp white linen sweep the floor, sprinkle cool water over the stones, and prepare the day's offerings: baskets of bread, onions, fish, figs, flowers, and small bowls of honey. Every motion is careful, ritualized as though the act itself is prayer. A young boy kneels by a basin, washing a bronze cup until it gleams. Another lights a handful of incense and waves it gently in the air. The smoke curls upward, thick and sweet, catching the sunlight like strands of gold. You pause near the edge, unsure if you should step forward. You're just a visitor here, dusty, sunburnt, wearing the same sweat-stained linen from yesterday. But a priest catches your eye and gives a small nod, a gesture of quiet welcome. He's older, with a shaved head that gleams faintly with oil. His eyes are calm but alert, his movements deliberate. The temple is for all, he says softly, his accent rich and melodic. The gods turn away no heart that seeks them. He gestures for you to follow. You walk together through a massive doorway into the shadowed coolness of the temple's interior. The air inside feels thick, not heavy, but charged, humming with the echo of thousands of prayers. The light from outside barely reaches this far, filtered through narrow slits in the stone. Dust floats in golden beams, and every sound, your footsteps, your breath, seems amplified. The walls are covered in color, deep reds, bright blues, soft greens. Scenes of gods and pharaohs stretch across them, painted in exquisite detail. You recognize some of them: Ra steering his solar bark, Isis spreading her wings protectively over her son, Anubis, black jackal-headed, guiding the souls of the dead. You run your fingers over the carved symbols. The stone feels cool and smooth, the grooves deep under your skin. These aren't just decorations, they're living words. The Egyptians believed that writing had power, that each symbol was infused with divine energy. When a priest spoke or carved the name of a god, the god listened. As you walk deeper, the air grows cooler still. The scent of incense thickens until it's almost dizzying. Somewhere ahead, you hear chanting low, steady, like the heartbeat of the temple itself. You turn a corner and find yourself in the inner courtyard, where a group of priests are gathered. They stand before a tall statue of the temple's god, perhaps Amun, or maybe Peta, it's hard to tell. The figure towers above them, his face serene, his hands outstretched. A small flame burns in a bronze bowl at his feet. The priests chant in unison, their voices blending into one continuous hum that vibrates in your chest. You don't understand the words, but you don't need to. The sound feels ancient, like it's not being spoken to the gods but through them. You watch as one priest carefully unwraps a small linen bundle. Inside is food, bread, fruit, a piece of roast duck. He places it at the statue's feet. Another pours a thin stream of wine into a stone basin, murmuring blessings as he does. This is the morning ritual, the opening of the mouth. The Egyptians believed their gods, like people, needed nourishment. But the food wasn't meant to be eaten, not physically. The priests said the gods consumed its essence, leaving the substance behind for mortals to eat later. The ceremony is long, precise, beautiful. Each motion follows a pattern that's been performed the same way for centuries. When the priests finally finish, the chief priest raises both hands to the light streaming from a high slit in the wall. Ra rises. He says quietly, "The world lives again." The chant stops. Silence fills the air. The only sound is the faint crackle of the flame. You breathe it in, the incense, the quiet, the strange, peaceful gravity of it all. Outside, you can already hear the world waking up. The hammering of tools, the distant laughter of children, the murmur of the river. But here, inside these stone walls, time feels slower. Every breath feels sacred. The priest turns to you again. "You have seen the gods welcomed," he says. "Now, if you wish, you may ask one to listen." You hesitate. "Ask." He nods. "For health, for strength, for the return of what was lost, or simply to give thanks." All are heard. You glance toward the statue, that immense, impassive face. It doesn't look alive, yet it feels aware, watching, waiting. You step forward, uncertain what to say. There's no script for this. You think of everything you've seen: the sun blazing on the fields, the long hours of work, the laughter of the children, the dream of Ra's battle through the night. And somehow, the words come out easily. "Thank you," you whisper. It's not fancy, not poetic, just honest. You bow your head, and for a moment, it feels as though the air around you warms, not from the sun, but from something deeper, something that hums beneath everything. You can't explain it. You don't try to. When you step back into the sunlight, it's almost blinding. The world outside feels louder, brighter, more alive. A group of children run past, one holding a small clay bird that whistles when he blows through it. Women laugh as they fill jars from the well. A fisherman drags his net up from the river, shimmering with silver fish. And for the first time, you really see it, the holiness in everything ordinary. The Egyptians didn't need to go far to find their gods. They were in the river's current, in the warmth of the sun, in the shape of a scarab, the scent of bread, the laughter of a child. Life itself was worshipped. You wander through the village as the sun climbs higher. The heat builds again, shimmering in waves across the sand. You pass the baker's hut, where loaves of bread puff in small clay ovens. The smell is intoxicating. You trade a few small trinkets for one warm, soft, slightly smoky. You break it open, and steam escapes, carrying the smell of roasted grain. You sit by the shade of a palm and eat slowly, watching the light glitter off the Nile. Fishermen haul their catch. Farmers call out across the fields. A scribe under a canopy of reeds sharpens his reed pen and begins to write, muttering to himself. Everywhere you look, there's movement, gentle, cyclical, endless. You think again of what the priest said. The gods turn away no heart that seeks them. Maybe that's what this place really teaches, that you don't need miracles or thunderbolts. You just need rhythm, gratitude, patience. The Nile flows, the sun burns, the people live, the day stretches on, slow and golden. You close your eyes and listen to the rustle of the palm leaves above you, the whisper of the river below. You could almost fall asleep again, right there, under the ancient Egyptian sun, not out of exhaustion, but peace. You think, maybe, just maybe, you could last another day here. If you keep moving with the rhythm, not against it. You sit a while longer in the shade, the sound of the Nile filling your ears like slow music. The sun climbs higher, turning the world into a soft shimmer of gold and white. You chew the last of your bread and brush the crumbs from your hands, watching the fishermen pull their nets from the water. The scent of wet reeds and river mud drifts on the wind. Somewhere nearby, a hammer strikes stone, a rhythmic clink, deliberate and steady. You glance toward the sound and see a group of men working beneath a half-finished wall, shaping blocks of limestone under the brutal midday sun. Dust rises with every strike, catching the light in glittering clouds. You wander closer, squinting. The air smells like hot stone and sweat, the kind of dry heat that clings to your throat. The men work in silence, except for the occasional grunt or shouted instruction. Their bodies are lean, tanned, and streaked with pale lines of dust. A young worker wipes his forehead and smiles faintly when he notices you watching. "Hot work," he says in a thick accent, his voice rough but cheerful. "But good work." The stone remembers. You ask him what he means. He shrugs, tapping his chisel against the block. "This stone will outlive us all. When the floods come, when the sands cover our houses, this will still stand." He looks proud, not of himself, but of the work. He's right, of course. The Egyptians built for eternity. Everything they touched, temples, tombs, statues, was designed to last forever. To them, permanence was sacred. Death might take the body, but the name, the memory, the image, those could live forever in stone. Further down the wall, you notice a man sitting apart from the workers. He's older, dressed in a cleaner linen robe, and his hands are stained not with dust, but ink. In his lap rests a flat wooden board and a roll of papyrus. His eyes move carefully over the symbols he's drawing, long, flowing lines that look half like birds, half like art. You realize he's a scribe. In ancient Egypt, that means he's part of a tiny, powerful class, the literate few who can read and write the language of the gods. To most people, writing isn't just a skill, it's magic. Words aren't symbols here, they're alive. Each one carries a spark of divine power, a piece of creation itself. The scribe looks up briefly and meets your gaze. His expression is calm, curious. Then he gestures for you to come closer. You crouch beside him, watching his reed pen glide across the papyrus. The ink is dark and glossy, made from soot and gum. The smell of it is faintly sweet, like burned sugar. His lines are perfect, every stroke deliberate, every curve measured. He doesn't look up as he speaks. Writing, he says softly, is speaking to the gods without making a sound. You nod, unsure what to say. He dips his pen again and continues. "We record the will of Pharaoh, the movements of the Nile, the taxes of the people, the stories of the dead. Without writing, memory fades. With it, we preserve the order of things." He pauses, eyes flicking toward you. "Would you like to try?" He hands you the reed pen. It feels light, fragile, almost too delicate for your fingers. You press it to the papyrus, but the line comes out blotchy and crooked. The scribe chuckles softly, not unkindly. "It takes years," he says. "Steady hand, steady mind." You hand it back, embarrassed, but he shakes his head. "All beginnings are messy. Even the Nile floods before it brings life." He leans forward slightly, lowering his voice. "You know, words can build or destroy. A wrong name chiseled in stone can erase a man from history. A right one can make him immortal." You think of the worker's words earlier. The stone remembers. Between the scribe's ink and the builder's hammer, Egypt ensures it never forgets. He sets down his tools and unfurls another scroll. This one is covered in dense rows of symbols, drawn with exquisite care. You recognize some shapes: eyes, feathers, waves, birds, but others are mysterious. "This," he says, "is a hymn to Thoth, Lord of Wisdom. It must be copied perfectly." Each stroke honors him, Each mistake offends. His voice lowers again, reverent. The gods gave us writing to preserve the world. That's why we call hieroglyphs medu-neja, the words of the divine. You watch the ink dry on the page, gleaming faintly before it darkens. The papyrus crackles softly as it curls. There's something hypnotic about the whole process. The rhythm of it, the patience, the precision. It feels less like work and more like prayer. A breeze stirs the dust, bringing with it the faint scent of bread baking somewhere in the distance. The workers call for a rest. They drink water from clay jars, wipe their faces, and shade their eyes with their hands. The sun is merciless now, the kind of light that feels like it's pressing you into the earth. The scribe rolls up his papyrus and sets it aside. "Come," he says, standing slowly. "Let us find shade. Even the gods rest at noon." You follow him toward a grove of palms near the edge of the site. The air under the trees is cooler, the ground soft with fallen leaves. A few other men sit nearby, eating onions, figs, flatbread. They break off pieces and share them without a word. The rhythm of community is quiet, automatic. No one rushes, no one hurries. The scribe offers you a small date. It's sticky and sweet, the flavor deep and earthy. You chew in silence, feeling your heartbeat slow again after the heat. He stretches his arms and glances toward the temple, far in the distance. "You went there this morning, didn't you?" he asks. You nod. "How did you know?" He smiles faintly. "The dust on your sandals. The smell of incense never fades quickly." He plucks a reed from the ground and rolls it between his fingers. The temple keeps the gods happy. The scribes keep their words alive. The builders make their homes eternal. Each of us does our part, and the world continues. That is, Matt. You ask what happens when someone breaks Matt, when someone lies or steals or disrespects the gods. His face darkens slightly, though not in anger. Then chaos comes, not just to one man, to all. The Nile might flood too high or too little. Crops fail. The stars shift. Order unravels. He glances upward at the blazing sky. That's why we live as we do. Work, rest, write, pray. Even our breath follows the rhythm of Matt. Break that rhythm, and he trails off, shrugging. You'll see. For a moment, you both sit in silence, listening to the rustle of palm leaves. Then, faintly, from somewhere near the village, comes the sound of music, flutes, hand drums, laughter. The scribe smiles again. Ah, the artisans. They play when they carve. The gods love music. You follow the sound to a nearby workshop, low roofs of reeds and mud brick. The smell of sawdust thick in the air. Inside, craftsmen shape statues from wood and alabaster, polish amulets, and paint small figures for tombs. The air is alive with movement. A man with a chisel hums as he works, tapping rhythmically against a block of limestone. The tune is simple but catchy, and soon others join in, tapping tools against wood in sync. It sounds like the heartbeat of creation itself. You wander between their work tables, fascinated. Tiny statues of gods Bastet, Horus, Osiris stare up at you with painted eyes. Rows of scarabs lie drying in the sun, each one unique. Someone is painting a funerary mask, his hand steady as he brushes gold leaf over the cheekbones. The mask gleams in the light, catching every shimmer of dust. One of the younger workers, barely older than a boy, grins and offers you a half-finished amulet. "Protection," he says proudly. "Keep this with you, and you'll walk in the favor of the gods." You turn it over in your palm. It's rough but beautiful, shaped like an ankh, the symbol of life. The looped cross feels cool against your skin. You nod your thanks, and he beams. Here, surrounded by music, color, and laughter, Egypt doesn't feel harsh or distant. It feels alive. The gods aren't abstract. They're right here, in the hands of the people shaping them. The scribe watches you quietly. "The artisans," he says softly, "speak to the gods with their hands. I speak with words. You listen. That's a gift, too." The heat begins to soften again as the sun starts its long slide westward. Shadows stretch across the sand, and the sound of hammers fades. The workers begin to tidy up, wrapping tools, covering unfinished statues, sweeping the dust into small piles. The scribe nods to you once more. "Come tomorrow," he says. "You'll see the writing of names for the tomb builders. It's how we make the dead eternal. You promise you will." He smiles, then turns back toward the half-built wall, his white robe glowing faintly in the amber light. As you walk back toward the river, The village hums with evening life, smoke from cook fires, the chatter of families, the faint pluck of strings from someone playing a lyre. The sky is turning bronze, the Nile catching the last of the sun's reflection. You pause to watch the light ripple over the water, thinking about the day, the builders, the scribe, the music, the endless patience of this place. There's a peace in knowing that every person here, no matter how small their role, believes they're part of something that lasts forever. The Nile keeps flowing, its surface smooth as silk. The air smells like earth and smoke and life itself. And as the last of the sun dips below the horizon, you realize you've started to move with Egypt's rhythm, that slow, steady pulse that binds the living, the dead, and the gods together. The air is soft now. The Nile gleams under a fading gold sky, rippling like melted metal. The day's heat loosens its grip, replaced by the first cool sigh of evening. From the palm groves comes the slow rhythm of crickets, their song blending with the distant sound of laughter and drums. You follow the sound of footsteps along a narrow dirt path, leading away from the village. The earth is still warm beneath your sandals. Ahead, the last light glows over the cliff's pale limestone ridges, honey-colored in the twilight. That's where they say the tomb builders live. The villagers told you about them earlier, men who carve eternity into the rock. Their hands are calloused, their lungs full of dust, but their work outlives Pharaohs. Some say they sleep by day and work by torchlight, shaping the homes of the dead beneath the earth. You walk until the light fades. The cliffs loom taller now, the air thinner and drier. A torch flickers ahead, a small, moving flame cutting through the dusk. You follow it, your footsteps echoing softly. The closer you get, the more you hear, the steady thud of hammers, the scrape of chisels, and the low murmur of men working beneath the stone. You reach the entrance of a narrow tunnel carved into the hillside. The smell of hot dust and oil fills your nose. Inside, shadows move broad shoulders, swinging tools, and the dull gleam of bronze under torchlight. The walls pulsed faintly with orange light, like the heart of the mountain is alive. A voice greets you, deep, calm, steady, careful where you step. The stone doesn't forgive mistakes. You turn. A man stands there, broad-chested and coated in a fine layer of white dust. His eyes are bright even in the dim light. He sets down his mallet and studies you for a moment. "Not from the crew," he says, half to himself. "But you've got the look, curious. That's fine." Curiosity built half of this place. He gestures for you to follow, and you do, deeper into the passage. The air grows cooler as you move, the sounds of the outside world fading completely. The flicker of the torches throws strange shapes across the walls, half-finished carvings of gods and hieroglyphs waiting for paint. "These," the man says, running his fingers over a smooth relief, "tell the story of the one who'll rest here. Every image matters. Every symbol protects." You study the carvings. There's the falcon-headed Horus, arms spread wide. The goddess Isis, her wings arched protectively over a sleeping king. A river flowing between stars. The path of the soul. Perhaps the man watches your face and smiles faintly. You don't need to understand the words. The stone understands. It remembers. You recognize that phrase again, the same one the mason said earlier. The stone remembers. The workers nearby are silent, except for the rhythm of their tools. Their torches hiss softly in the still air. You notice that even though the place feels sacred, it's also human. One man sneezes, another hums quietly under his breath. A few take a break, sipping from clay flasks, their laughter echoing low against the rock. Your guide picks up a small copper chisel and places it in your hand. "Feel it," he says. "This is what forever feels like." It's surprisingly light. You trace its edge with your thumb, dulled from years of use, warm from his grip. He takes it back and sets it against the wall, tapping 3 times. Each strike rings like a heartbeat. "This is for the Pharaoh's afterlife," he says, pausing to wipe his brow. "But it's also for us. The tomb will stand long after our bones turn to dust. Maybe someday, someone like you will walk in and wonder who made it." He laughs quietly, "And we'll still be here, in the lines, in the stone dust, in the names." A younger worker nearby raises a torch to illuminate a painted section. The colors glow, deep blue, ochre, red, scenes of the Pharaoh's journey through the underworld. You see serpents, stars, rivers of fire, and boats, carrying glowing orbs, the souls of the blessed, sailing toward eternity. Your guide lowers his voice. They believe the soul has many parts: the car, the bar, the ok. The car stays with the body. The bar flies free, like a bird. The AKH ... That's the shining one. The one that joins the stars. He smiles slightly. We carve so the soul won't forget the way home. You move deeper, ducking beneath a low archway. The smell of oil grows stronger here, mingling with the faint scent of something sweet. Resin, maybe, or incense. At the end of the tunnel, you find a small chamber. The ceiling is covered in painted stars. The air feels thick, heavy, but peaceful. In the center lies a half-finished sarcophagus, smooth and white. Its sides are blank, waiting to be inscribed. The craftsman runs his hand over it almost tenderly. When this is done, he says softly, they'll fill it with linen, oil, gold, and words. Without the words, none of it works. The soul can't see without its name. He sits down on a low stool and takes a sip from a clay cup. You know, we live out here, away from the city. We eat together, work together, die together. The Pharaoh calls us his workers in the place of truth. It's not much, but it's enough. The gods see us. He stares at the sarcophagus for a moment. Sometimes, when I work alone at night, I think I hear the stone breathing, like it remembers everyone who's touched it. You listen. The air hums faintly with heat, but beneath it, maybe there's something else. A pulse. A low, endless sound, almost like the earth itself whispering. He stands and stretches. Come. The overseer doesn't like strangers, but he owes me a favor. You follow him through another passage that opens into a wide cavern, torchlight bouncing off thousands of carved faces. Walls, ceilings, pillars, every surface tells a story. Gods battling serpents, pharaohs offering incense, the rising sun pushing back darkness. It's overwhelming. The scale of it, the devotion, the sheer patience. Your guide sets down his torch and looks around with quiet pride. We make the dead eternal, he says. But sometimes, I think we make ourselves eternal too. The overseer appears older, stern-faced, his hair tied neatly beneath a linen wrap. He eyes you for a long moment, then nods curtly. Let them see, he says to your guide, but no touching the paint. He turns to you. Do you know why we bury our kings in the west? You shake your head. Because the sun dies there each day, he says, and is reborn in the east. So must the pharaoh. Death is not the end. It's only a crossing. He gestures toward the paintings of boats on the walls. That's why we paint these. They're maps for the soul, directions through the duat, the underworld. Without them, even a king could get lost forever. You trace one of the painted lines with your eyes, the river winding between stars. There's something comforting about it, like a bedtime story told to calm a child's fear of the dark. The overseer studies you. You don't belong here, he says, but not unkindly. You breathe differently. You look like you carry time on your back. But if you remember anything of this place, remember this: we don't fear death. We prepare for it, the way you might prepare for a journey. He turns back toward the carvings. When my time comes, I'll go knowing I've built something that lasts. That's all any man can ask. You thank him quietly. He nods, then walks away, his torchlight shrinking into the tunnels until it's gone. Your guide sighs softly, leaning on his hammer. He's right. We don't build graves here. We build doorways. You step closer to the wall again, tracing your fingers near but not on the painted figures. They seem to glow in the torchlight, calm faces, peaceful poses, eyes open toward eternity. For the first time since you arrived in Egypt, you don't feel like a stranger. You feel small, yes, but in a way that's oddly comforting. Like you've stepped into a story that has been told for thousands of years and will keep being told long after you're gone. When you finally step back out into the open night, the stars have fully risen. The air is cool, clean, and endless. Below the cliffs, the Nile glimmers faintly in the distance. Your guide squints toward the horizon. We work by the light of the moon now, he says. Tomorrow, the painters will come. They'll make the walls sing. He offers you his hand, rough and warm. Sleep well, traveler. If you dream tonight, dream of stone. You smile, nodding, and make your way down the slope. The sand crunches softly beneath your feet. Behind you, the cliffs glow faintly with torchlight, a mountain full of quiet gods and eternal work. The night hums around you, crickets, river wind, and somewhere far away, the sound of a reed flute playing a slow, mournful tune. The song follows you all the way back toward the river, wrapping around your thoughts until it feels like Egypt itself is singing you to sleep. The sound of the flute fades as you reach the edge of the village again. The moon hangs low over the Nile, silver and serene, its reflection rippling across the dark water. Somewhere nearby, a dog barks once, then goes quiet. The world feels smaller now, softer, as if the night itself is wrapping everything in linen, tucking Egypt in for sleep. You follow a faint trail that winds toward the riverbank. The sand is cool beneath your feet, and the air carries the scent of lotus and damp reed. Across the water, torchlights flicker, a slow line of movement heading north. You squint and realize it's a funeral boat. It moves silently, oars dipping into the water with perfect rhythm. At its center lies a small shrine draped in white cloth, a golden mask glinting faintly beneath the moonlight. A few figures stand along the edges, chanting something low and rhythmic, not loud enough to hear the words, but steady enough to feel them in your chest. You stop and watch as it glides past. The water parts gently around it, carrying the boat toward the far bank where the necropolis waits, the city of the dead. Even from here, you can see the flicker of distant fires burning among the cliffs. The Egyptians don't see death the way you do. For them, it's not an end, it's a continuation, a change in form. Life flows like the Nile, from birth to death to rebirth, again and again. As long as the gods are remembered and the rituals are done properly. You follow the faint path along the river until you reach a low cluster of buildings surrounded by tall walls. The air smells different here, sharper, smoky, and heavy with resin. A few men stand by the gate, their linen robes darker than usual, their heads shaved clean. One of them sees you and raises a hand. "You've come at a quiet hour," he says softly. His voice is calm but carries weight, the kind of tone used by people who spend their lives among the dead. Few walk this path at night unless they seek wisdom or peace. You tell him you're just curious. He studies your face for a moment, then nods. Curiosity is a sacred thing. Come, but tread gently. You walk among the servants of Anubis. He leads you through the gate and into a courtyard lit by oil lamps. The walls are covered with murals, black jackal-headed figures guiding souls across rivers of stars, men bowing before golden thrones, women scattering flowers on altars. The scent of incense is thick, sweet, and bitter all at once. "This is the house of purification," the priest says. "Here begins the work of returning the body to the gods." He walks ahead, and you follow him into a long, shadowed chamber. The air is cool, almost cold. Clay jars line the walls, each painted with symbols, eyes, feathers, and protective spells. In the center of the room lies a stone table. On it, beneath linen wrappings, rests a human shape. The priest speaks softly, as if afraid to disturb the stillness. "This one died 5 days ago. He will soon be ready for wrapping. But first, his body must be cleansed, blessed, and guarded from decay." You nod, unsure what to say. The process feels both sacred and clinical, precise, patient, and deeply respectful. The priest dips a small jar into a basin of clear water and begins to sprinkle droplets across the linen. Each movement is deliberate. "We wash with water from the Nile," he says, "for it is the blood of life. Then we anoint with oils, cedar, myrrh, juniper, to preserve the flesh. The heart we leave, for it is the seat of the soul. The rest," he trails off, his hand hovering over the still form. "The rest returns to the earth." You glance at the painted jars again. Each one has a small animal head carved on its lid: falcon, jackal, baboon, and man. "The sons of Horus," the priest explains, noticing your gaze. "They guard the organs, the liver for Imsiti, the lungs for Hopi, the stomach for Duamutef, the intestines for Kebesatnef. Without them, the body is incomplete." His tone is so calm it almost feels like he's describing a bedtime routine, not the preparation of the dead. "We do not fear the body," he continues. "It is only the shell, but we must treat it as sacred, or the soul will wander lost." He gestures for you to follow him into the next chamber. The light here is softer, golden. Shelves line the walls, stacked with rolls of linen, jars of resin, and small brushes. In the corner stands a wooden table covered in charms, tiny amulets shaped like scarabs, ankhs, and eyes. Each amulet, the priest says, lifting one carefully, protects a part of the body. The eye of Horus wards off harm. The scarab ensures rebirth. The ankh grants breath in the afterlife. We place them layer by layer, wrapping the body in words as much as cloth. He smiles faintly. "Some call us undertakers, but we are storytellers too. Each wrapping tells the tale of a soul. You watch as two younger priests prepare a roll of linen. Their movements are slow, rhythmic, almost hypnotic. One hums under his breath, a deep, droning melody that fills the room. The elder priest tilts his head. That song, he says softly, is the hymn to Anubis. It keeps the darkness calm. He places his hand gently over the covered form. When this is done, we will seal him in his coffin. The family will bring food, flowers, and shabti, little servants made of clay, to help in the fields of eternity. He turns to you. Tell me, traveler, in your land, do the dead still eat? You hesitate. No, we bury them and remember them, but they don't need food. He smiles kindly. Ah, but remembrance is food. Every time you speak a name, you feed the soul. You stand in silence, letting that thought sink in. In the flickering light, everything feels suspended. The still body, the jars, the smell of myrrh and smoke. It's not eerie or morbid. It's peaceful, like a lullaby for eternity. The priest moves toward a small altar at the far end of the room. A statue of Anubis stands there, black stone, eyes inlaid with gold. He lights a stick of incense and places it before the figure. We do not worship death, he says. We honor the passage. Death is simply a doorway, and Anubis is the one who opens it. He gestures to the flame. Watch, the smoke curls upward in thin, elegant lines. For a moment, it seems to form a shape, the curve of a jackal's snout, the flick of an ear, before dispersing into the air. The priest smiles faintly, as if seeing an old friend. When I was young, he says softly, I was afraid to work here. I thought the dead were silent and cold, but they're not, they whisper. Not with words, with stillness. They remind us that all things must rest. He looks at you then, eyes warm and tired. That includes you, traveler. Even the living need, mummification of the mind, a wrapping of calm before the journey of sleep. You chuckle quietly, but his tone stays serious. Rest is sacred, he says. The gods themselves sleep. Ra journeys through the duat each night, dying with the sunset and being reborn at dawn. To rest is to trust that the sun will rise again. You nod, feeling a strange calm settle over you. The air in the chamber feels thicker now, but not heavy, more like a blanket. He picks up a clay lamp and leads you outside again. The night has deepened, the stars burn bright and sharp above. In the distance, you can hear frogs croaking along the riverbanks. The priest stops at the gate and turns to you one last time. You have seen what few outsiders ever see. Remember what you witnessed here. Death is not a punishment. It's the moment the body exhales and the soul inhales. He holds your gaze. The next time you close your eyes to sleep, think of it as practice for eternity. That way, when your day comes, you'll already know the way. You thanked him quietly. He bows, then disappears back into the shadows of the courtyard, his lamplight fading behind the walls. You stand alone beneath the stars for a long while. The air is cool, the earth silent. The scent of incense lingers faintly, a thin thread of smoke winding toward the heavens. And for the first time, you don't fear the idea of death. You understand now, to the Egyptians, dying isn't losing life. It's joining the rhythm of it. The same rhythm that carries the Nile, that turns the stars, that hums through every stone and whisper in the dark. You turn toward the river again, following the sound of water. The moon has climbed higher now, bathing everything in silver. The surface of the Nile looks like glass, endless, smooth, reflecting eternity itself. Somewhere behind you, a priest begins another chant, low and steady, the sound rolling through the night like a heartbeat. You walk slowly, letting it follow you, until the song becomes one with the gentle rustle of the reeds. By the time you reach the water's edge, your eyelids feel heavy. The night feels soft and infinite. Egypt has taught you that even endings are just another kind of beginning. You close your eyes and listen to the river, the stars, the unseen world breathing around you. And in that stillness, for just a moment, you feel what the priests meant. You understand what it is to rest in eternity. When your eyes open again, the world has changed. The moon has slipped behind the western hills, and the first breath of dawn brushes across the Nile. The air is soft and pale, the color of milk and ash. The stars fade slowly, one by one, like dying embers. Somewhere nearby, a rooster calls, its voice sharp against the silence. You stretch, feeling the coolness of the sand beneath your hands. The night's chill still lingers, but the edge of the sky glows faintly, the first whisper of sunrise. The Nile moves lazily beside you, a mirror of light and shadow. Egypt is waking. You hear it before you see it, the shuffle of feet, the murmur of voices, the creak of wooden doors. From the village behind you drifts the smell of smoke and baking bread. A dog shakes itself, a baby cries, someone coughs softly into the dawn. The rhythm of life begins again, patient and familiar. The priests said the gods sleep and wake just as mortals do, and now, watching the horizon blush with gold, you realize that's true. Every morning in Egypt isn't just a new day, it's a rebirth. The eastern sky brightens, a line of orange fire ripples over the river's edge, and suddenly, the disk of the sun bursts forth, perfect, round, radiant. The light spills across the water, scattering diamonds. The Egyptians believe this moment isn't just sunrise, it's Ra himself, the sun god, being reborn after his nightly journey through the underworld. All night, they say, he sailed through the Duat, battling the serpent of chaos, Apophis, and when he rises like this, he has conquered death again. You stand still, bathed in the growing light. The warmth touches your face, your hands, your chest. For a moment, it feels personal, as if the sun is seeing you, recognizing you, blessing you simply for still being here. From somewhere deeper in the village, you hear a low chant begin the first morning hymn to Ra. The melody is slow and rhythmic, carried by male voices in perfect unison. The sound rises and falls like waves. You turn toward it, following the voices until you reach the temple courtyard. The same priests who worked by starlight are now gathered in the early light, their white robes glowing faintly. They face east, hands lifted, palms open to the rising sun. Ra of the horizon, one of them intones, who comes in glory, who opens the day. We greet you with our breath, another joins. You rise in beauty, you banish the darkness, you bring life to the two lands. Their words flow like poetry, soft and unhurried. Between verses, they clap once, a single, sharp beat that echoes through the courtyard. The scent of burning myrrh fills the air, sweet and thick. The smoke rises in thin curls, turning golden in the new light. You stand at the edge of the crowd, watching. No one rushes, no one fidgets. Everything about this ritual feels measured, patient, eternal. The priests don't just watch the sunrise, they participate in it, as though the very act of acknowledging the dawn keeps the world turning. Beside you, an old woman bows her head, whispering her own prayer. In her hands, she holds a small clay lamp, still burning faintly from the night. She tips it forward, letting the last of the flame die out. You realize it's symbolic, the night's fire extinguished as the sun's fire takes its place. The light climbs higher, spilling across the temple walls. The carvings of gods and kings seem to wake with it, their faces coming alive in gold and shadow. The hieroglyphs glow faintly, the lines catching the light like they're breathing. One priest, younger than the rest, notices you watching. He smiles, then motions for you to come closer. "You've seen Ra rise?" he asks. You nod. "I have." He tilts his head, eyes gleaming. "Then you've seen victory." Every morning, Ra defeats the serpent again. Every dawn is proof that order still holds. He gestures to the horizon, where the sun burns brighter now, shimmering in the heat. We live by this truth. No night lasts forever. No darkness wins. He places his hand lightly on your shoulder. This is why we wake early, to remind ourselves that we are part of the renewal. The other priests begin to move through the courtyard, lighting more incense, sprinkling water from small bronze bowls. The droplets sparkle in the sunlight, turning the air into mist. You watch as the light creeps down the temple steps, touching the edge of a lotus pond. The flowers, closed tight all night, begin to open, pale blue petals unfolding toward the warmth. You realize this, too, is part of the ceremony. The whole land participates. People, river, birds, even the flowers. A boy runs by carrying a basket of offerings, bread, onions, figs. He nearly trips, then laughs at himself before setting the basket on a low altar. The smell of warm bread mixes with the incense, a scent so comforting it makes your stomach growl softly. The younger priest chuckles. "Ra feeds us all," he says. "The light gives grain, the river gives life. That's the promise of Mat Balance." He pours water into your hands from a small jar. It's cool, clean. Wash, traveler. Begin, as the sun begins, fresh. You rub your palms together, the water dripping to the stone floor. It feels symbolic, even though it's simple. a small renewal. The chant ends. The priests bow together, then turn to tend to the temple's inner rooms. The crowd disperses slowly, returning to their day's work, some heading to the fields, others to the market, some simply sitting in the sun with quiet smiles. You linger by the lotus pond, watching the petals open fully now, bright and alive. The air hums with insects, birds, and the soft creak of oars from the river. A woman carrying a jar of water passes by and greets you with a nod. Her linen dress glows in the sunlight, and her shadow ripples across the sand. "The sun is kind today," she says. "He must have had a good night's battle." You smile. "Do you believe Ra truly fights the serpent every night?" She shrugs, adjusting the jar on her shoulder. "Of course, but whether he fights in the sky or in our hearts, that part doesn't matter. We all fight something before morning comes." She walks on, humming softly, her song fading into the distance. You sit down beside the pond and close your eyes for a moment, letting the sun warm your face. The hum of life around you is soothing, almost musical. You remember what the priest said earlier, even the gods rest and rise again. Maybe that's what sleep really is, a small death, a small rebirth. Every night and morning, you open your eyes again. The temple courtyard is brighter now, almost too bright to look at directly. The white stone gleams, and the river glitters, like a ribbon of gold. Somewhere, a group of children are playing with papyrus boats, racing them along the irrigation canals. Their laughter rings across the fields, pure and unbothered. The farmers are already working, bending, lifting, moving in slow rhythm. The scribe you met earlier sits beneath a fig tree, already bent over his papyrus scroll, the same calm patience on his face. You realize, watching them all, that Egypt never truly sleeps. It rests, yes, it breathes, pauses, renews, but it never stops. Life and death, sunrise and sunset, work and rest, all parts of the same endless cycle. The same Nile that fed the morning fields will one day flood the tombs. The same sunlight that paints the temples will fade the paint away. But none of that feels tragic here. It just feels balanced. You lie back in the sand, the sun on your skin, the sound of water in your ears. The light behind your eyelids turns red and gold. In that moment, it's easy to understand why the Egyptians believed the soul could live forever. Everything here feels eternal, not in a frozen, unchanging way, but in a breathing, living rhythm. The world turns, the sun rises, the Nile flows, life repeats, endlessly, and in that repetition, there's comfort, there's peace. You drift into a light doze, half awake, half dreaming. In your mind's eye, you see the journey of Ra, the golden boat, sailing through stars, through darkness, through serpents of shadow. You see him rise again, bright and victorious, carrying all of Egypt with him into another day. You smile in your sleep, the warmth wrapping you like a blanket. Somewhere in your dream, the scribe's voice whispers, "Even the gods need morning light." The sunlight feels like it's seeping straight through your eyelids. You try to ignore it, but it's no use. The warmth has weight. You shift slightly, the sand crackling under your back, and open one eye. Egypt is wide awake now. The air vibrates with life, shouts from the river, laughter from the fields, the slap of sandals on stone. The sweet smell of bread baking drifts from somewhere behind you, and your stomach, ever the realist, makes a polite complaint. You push yourself up, brush sand from your arms, and blink at the blinding blue above. There isn't a single cloud, just that endless, burning sky. A lazy vulture circles far off, a dark dot over the shimmering fields. It's funny how quickly Egypt changes with the sun. A few hours ago, it was still and sacred. Now, it's loud and busy and completely human. A line of farmers moves along the bank, carrying tools over their shoulders, long wooden hoes, ropes, and baskets. Their voices rise and fall in rhythmic chants as they work. It's not exactly singing, but it has a beat, a pulse. The sound seems to keep their movements in sync. You wander closer, careful not to step on the irrigation channels crisscrossing the fields. The earth is damp here, rich, dark, and full of life. Water from the Nile has soaked deep into the soil, leaving behind the black silt that feeds everything. One of the farmers, a wiry man with deep lines around his eyes, glances up and grins. "Hot already, isn't it?" he says. You nod, wiping sweat from your neck. "How do you stand it?" He laughs, showing teeth worn flat from years of chewing grain and sand. "You don't stand it," he says. "You just live with it. The sun's been here longer than any of us." He plunges his hoe into the soil and keeps talking without pausing. Work with the sun, not against it. Rest when it's cruel, move when it's kind. You watch him for a while. His movements are slow but sure, a lifetime of practice. Each motion is part of something ancient, passed down from hands that have done this for thousands of years. Nearby, 2 women kneel at the edge of the field, weaving red baskets. Their fingers move fast, twisting the green stalks into tight spirals. They talk as they work, gossip, laughter, the occasional scandal shared in hushed tones that turn into giggles. You catch a few words about a temple dancer who's far too close to a nobleman, and about a neighbor who claims her cow was blessed by Apparently, even divine cows are fair game for gossip. A boy, no older than 10, splashes barefoot through the irrigation water, chasing a frog with a stick. His laughter rings out over the fields, bright and unbothered. An older man yells something, probably stop wasting time, but the boy just waves and runs faster. It's strange how normal it all feels. If you ignored the linen clothes and the hieroglyphs, it could be any village, anywhere, anytime. People talk, joke, work, get tired, get hungry. The only difference is that they occasionally thank a god for keeping the crocodiles away. The farmer straightens up, wiping his brow. "You hungry, traveler?" he asks. Your stomach answers for you with an embarrassing growl. He laughs again, waving you toward a shady patch beneath a fig tree. "Come, my wife packed too much bread." You follow him, grateful for the shade. The fig tree hums with bees, its leaves casting dappled shadows across the ground. His wife, a cheerful woman with sun-browned skin and clever eyes, sits nearby with a basket of food. She offers you a piece of bread, thick and rough, still warm from the morning oven. It's dense, almost heavy. You bite into it and immediately get a crunch of sand. The farmer grins. "Good, isn't it?" You nod, chewing carefully. It's not exactly soft and fluffy, but there's something honest about it. The taste of grain and smoke and effort. She pours beer into a clay cup and passes it to you. It's thick, almost like porridge, slightly sour, and surprisingly refreshing. Egyptians drink beer like water, literally. It's safer than the Nile, and keeps everyone hydrated and cheerful. As you drink, she asks, "You're not from here, are you?" You shake your head. "I thought so," she says, smiling. "You don't move like a farmer. You look around too much." Her husband chuckles. He's got the eyes of a scribe. He says, "Always thinking, never digging." You smile, accepting the teasing as a compliment. After eating, the farmer stands and stretches. Back to work, he sighs. The gods may rule the sky, but they don't weed our fields. You thank them and wander toward the village again, the sun already climbing higher. The streets are alive now. Merchants shout prices. Children chase each other through alleys. A dog naps in a pile of straw. You pass a baker pulling loaves from a clay oven, the air thick with heat and the smell of yeast. Nearby, a potter spins a wheel with his foot, shaping wet clay into perfect bowls. A woman stands over a tub of water, washing linen by hand, rhythmically slapping it against a flat stone. She sings softly as she works, her voice rising above the splash of water. It's a song about the Nile, about how it feeds the people, how it never forgets to return. It's easy to see why everything here feels spiritual. When the river is your god, and your god feeds you, even washing clothes feels sacred. You stop at a small stall where a scribe sits behind a low wooden table. He's surrounded by papyrus sheets, ink pots, and bundles of reeds. His hair is neat, his linen spotless, a rare sight among all this dust and sweat. He looks up from his writing and smiles politely. "Need a letter written?" You shake your head. He shrugs. "A will, perhaps. A love poem." You hesitate. "Do you write many love poems?" He grins. "More than you'd think. People fall in love, argue, fall in love again. It's good for business." He unrolls a scrap of papyrus and reads one aloud, just for show. It's short but charming. Your voice is sweet as beer. Your eyes are cool as the Nile. When you pass, even Ra turns to look. You can't help but laugh softly. "Does that actually work?" He shrugs. "Sometimes the gods of love like effort." As he returns to his writing, you watch how his reed pen glides over the papyrus, smooth, elegant, precise. Every letter is a prayer to order, to Matt. You realize that even writing here is a sacred act, not just communication, but preservation. You wander on. The heat deepens, shadows shrink. The village slows down, everyone retreating into shade. By midday, the streets are quiet. The only sound is the distant hum of cicadas and the steady trickle of the Nile. You find a cool spot beneath a mud brick wall and sit for a while, watching dust swirl lazily in the sunlight. Across the street, a group of young men play a game throwing sticks and small stones into a pattern marked on the ground. It's called Senet, an ancient board game said to represent the soul's journey through the afterlife. But right now, it just looks like an excuse to laugh and bet on who has the worst aim. One of them waves at you. Want to try? You shrug and cross over. They make room, handing you a flat wooden piece carved with an Ankh symbol. The rules are half explained, half invented. You throw the sticks, they land. Everyone argues over what that means. You move your piece. Someone groans, someone else cheers. It's messy and fun, the kind of small, timeless joy that transcends history. After a while, you're losing badly, but no one cares. The oldest of the group pats your shoulder. Don't worry, traveler. Even the gods lose sometimes. The sun finally begins to shift, the worst of the heat fading. People emerge again, stretching, talking, laughing. A boy runs past, carrying a jug of water. Another chases him with a stick. Somewhere, a musician starts playing a small harp, the notes drifting lazily across the courtyard. A cool breeze rises from the river, carrying the smell of wet reeds and faraway rain. The scribe walks by again, carrying his writing board under his arm. He nods at you. Still surviving. Barely. You say. He laughs. Then you're doing better than most. Egypt doesn't take it easy on strangers. You smile, feeling the truth of it. Your skin is sticky with sweat, your sandals full of dust, and yet there's a strange peace to it all. The rhythm of this place, this heat, these people, it's exhausting, yes, but it's also alive in a way that modern life never is. As the sun begins its slow descent, the fields glow gold again. Farmers walk home with their tools, children trail behind them. Smoke rises from cooking fires, and the village fills with the smell of roasted onions and grain. You sit by the riverbank once more, watching the reflection of the sky melt into the water. The air hums with the sound of evening frogs, insects, soft laughter from nearby homes. You think about what the woman said earlier. We all fight something before morning comes, and maybe that's what makes this world feel so timeless. The battles are different now, but the rhythm, waking, working, loving, resting, it's the same. You breathe in the warm air, heavy with smoke and life, and close your eyes for a moment. You wouldn't last a day in ancient Egypt. That's true. Not with this heat, these hours, this grit. But for tonight, as the sun fades and the first stars appear, it almost feels like you could. The sun is slipping now, melting toward the horizon. The Nile glows orange and gold, rippling gently with the wind. Shadows stretch across the fields and village, long and soft, touching everything with a quiet calm. The day is ending, and the world exhales. You sit by the river, letting your fingers trail through the warm water. Tiny fish dart past, shimmering like sparks. The air smells of smoke and baking bread, dust and reeds. Somewhere a dog barks once, then stops. The first crickets begin their low, gentle song. The villagers are returning home. Farmers carry baskets of vegetables and grain. Children run ahead, calling to one another, their laughter mixing with the river's hum. Women move slowly with jars of water on their heads, their robes glowing faintly in the last sunlight. You notice smoke rising from many homes now, cooking fires. Someone is roasting onions over embers, another preparing fish from the Nile. The smells mix with the cooling evening air, sharp and comforting. A man carrying a basket of bread pauses near the riverbank. He sees you watching and offers a loaf. For your evening meal, he says. His smile is warm, practiced, the kind of kindness born from living in close community. You accept it and tear off a piece, warm and dense. It's not soft or sweet, but it's enough to fill your stomach. A woman carrying a pot of stew passes by and lets you taste a spoonful, rich and spiced with cumin and coriander. It's a flavor you've never known but somehow fits the land perfectly. Nearby, children chase each other with sticks, playing games that have no names and no rules. You watch a boy tumble into the sand, then laugh and push his friend into the water. The laughter carries across the river, mixing with the songs of the evening birds. The village slows as the sun dips lower. Shadows lengthen, blending with the soft darkness creeping from the west. People gather near their homes, speaking in quiet tones, finishing chores, washing in small basins, and preparing the evening meal. Lamps are lit, casting a gentle golden glow across mud-brick walls and the edges of thatched roofs. You wander to the temple again. The priests are quiet now, performing evening rituals, not grand or noisy, but soft, patient, and deliberate. Small offerings are set out for the gods: bread, beer, flowers, and incense. The scents mingle, heavy and sweet, drifting through the temple courtyards like invisible prayers. The elder priest you met before stands by the altar. His hands move slowly over small statues and charms, laying them carefully. He whispers words in a language that feels like wind, soft and curling around the stones. The night is a time of balance, he murmurs, a time when the living rest and the dead walk freely. We prepare, so the world remains in order. He notices you and nods. Evening is a lesson, he says softly. The cycle continues. Life, death, sleep, wakefulness, all threads in the same weave. Do not fear the night. It has its place, as does the day. You follow him to a small courtyard. A fire burns low, red and steady. Around it, women and children sit, sharing stories. They speak of harvests and floods, of gods and dreams, of mischief and love. Their words float in the cool air like smoke from the fire. A boy leans forward, whispering to his mother about a dream he had, a boat floating on the Nile filled with stars, guided by a falcon-headed god. She laughs softly. The gods speak in dreams. Little one, pay attention. You close your eyes for a moment and try to recall your own dreams. The night spent half asleep by the lotus pond, watching Ra rise, the stone tunnels breathing in whispers. It all comes back. The tombs, the incense, the chants of priests, the laughter of children. Dreams, it seems, are just another thread of this vast, patient rhythm. The evening deepens. The sky shifts from orange to purple, then deep indigo. Stars begin to pierce the darkness. You hear the distant sound of oars dipping into the Nile, a boat returning from the far side of the river, perhaps carrying someone home, perhaps carrying something more sacred. The village lights flicker on. Clay lamps glow softly outside homes. Shadows dance against the walls. Somewhere, a flute begins to play, low and lilting. It isn't urgent or loud, just a sound that carries the calm of the night across the water. You sit alone for a while, letting the quiet settle. The world feels enormous, yet intimate. Every rustle, every whisper, every breath of wind is part of a pattern older than you can comprehend. The life of the village, the flow of the Nile, the rise and fall of the sun and moon, it all moves together. You think of the tomb builders and priests you've seen. Their hands carved eternity. Their rituals honored life and death. They taught that the smallest actions, the laying of linen, the lighting of incense, the speaking of names, connect mortals to gods and gods to eternity. A gentle wind stirs, brushing against your skin, carrying the smell of lotus flowers from the riverbank. Somewhere, a woman hums softly, a tune that drifts across the water like a lullaby. You realize that even here, where death is constant, life is vibrant. The day ends, but the night is full of presence, of whispers, of stars, of soft prayers to gods who never sleep entirely. The moon rises now, silver and thin. Its reflection glimmers across the Nile. The villagers are quiet, settling into their homes. Dogs curl into the corners of huts. Fires burn low. The crickets, frogs, and distant owls take over the chorus. You lie back on the sand once more, feeling the warmth of the day fade and the cool of the night rise. You think about all you've seen, the sunrise, the tombs, the bustling village, the laughter, the rituals, the endless rhythm of work and rest. And then, slowly, your eyelids close. In your mind's eye, you see Ra's boat sailing again, carrying light across the dark waters of the world. You see the tombs, serene and silent, yet full of memory. You see children playing, priests chanting, farmers working, women weaving baskets, the Nile flowing endlessly. All of it blends into one infinite, calm, eternal picture. The rhythm of ancient Egypt, alive and gentle, carrying you into sleep. The night whispers around you. The stars look down like tiny lamps in the sky. Somewhere nearby, a priest murmurs a blessing. A child hums a lullaby. The river hums a quiet song. You dream of stone and river, of gods and people, of life and death, and the endless cycles in between. And in that dream, you understand, you might not last a day in ancient Egypt. The sun is harsh, the work is long, the heat unrelenting. But if you close your eyes and let yourself drift, you can become part of its rhythm. its eternal flow, if only for a night. The crickets sing, the Nile glows faintly in the moonlight, the scent of lotus drifts on the air, and somewhere, Ra rises again in the east, bringing light to the world, reminding you that every day, even in a place as old and enduring as Egypt, life continues, endlessly, beautifully, quietly, and now, for the first time, you truly rest.